Your Grace, respected fathers, brothers and sisters. I think what Professor Katsuloto said in introducing this evening's meeting says a lot of what I had in mind to say. Right? And indeed, the title, Our Healing Presence, that Father George asked me a few weeks ago to present here, I was thinking about it many times over. What does it really want him to talk about? Want me to talk about our presence is enough to heal? And Greg just then mentioned an example that Christ, of course, was able to do that with his mere presence. And it says something about how or what are the expectations of those people who minister to the needs of others. What do they have to achieve? The people who have this ministry, and as Greg mentioned before, priests, doctors, nurses, social workers, but not only them, because our healing presence can be extended to much wider spectrum, and you'll see what I mean at the end, towards the end. So not only these people can heal with a presence, if of course they fill some prerequisites. Anyone who is in a position to, by relation, by profession, by his calling, anyone who is in a position to advise, to encourage, to comfort, to console, to guide, we are these people. For the purpose of this brief talk today, anyone here could potentially be one of these people who, through his presence, can have a healing influence to the people around him or around her. So it is about us and about healing. Now, what we mean by healing, as doctors or nurses, we think of restoring physical health to the people we come in contact with, or at least comfort and relieve the pain. In the sense of this meeting, and I'm sure His Grace will agree with that, it has a much broader sense, and it means healing the whole of the human person. And the whole of the human person is not just body, it's soul, body and soul. The human being is two things, what we see and what we don't see inside us, the soul. And it is that soul, the spirit, that in today's world it seems to be neglected. As a medical practitioner, I am called, or according to what I suppose my bosses, the health department and Medicare does, to have people there and see them and provide for them some relief in their pain. But when it comes to giving advice on something which is not written anywhere in my textbooks, but it is very, very important and significant for their own well-being, having to do with their relations, their great problems that they face at the workplace, at the family level. This is when this comes through. So when here I speak to members of the Orthodox Church, and my task becomes a lot easier, because the whole of the gospel is about healing. If we take it from the beginning, the whole of the gospel, the ministry of Christ on this world, was to heal people. This is the teachings of the Orthodox faith, and from the experiences of the lives of the saints. This is what we see. If we see any of the dismissal hymns, the Apolitikia for the saints, we will find that always has a sentence about and help us and save us through your intercessions to God, to keep us in one piece, to keep us all good and well. The reference is always that, which really, it's nothing more, nothing less than what in the gospel we see right through. The general characterization of Christ, in very simple, it's in one sentence in the book of Acts. He went about doing good and healing all. That was the word of Christ. Going about doing good and healing all. Ο Χριστός διήλθε ευεργετών και ιώμενος πάντας. These three words. Ευεργετών και ιώμενος πάντας. He was healing and he was doing good to everyone that he came in contact with. Now we could mention the numerous miracles of Jesus, and we will see there this healing presence. I'm not going to do that. But he is the healer par excellence of the soul and of mind. The soul and of mind. And of body. Ο ιατρός των ψυχών και των σωμάτων. And all the ευχολόγια της Εκκλησίας μας, Your Grace, this is what is mentioned so widely. Εσύ ο ιατρός των ψυχών και των σωμάτων. It's widely spread, this notion. He is the one who heals in a real sense everyone. So the whole of the New Testament is full of that, and I'm not going to talk about that, but for people who need to heal with a presence, three main characteristics that they come from the gospel, and I've summarized them because we don't have much time, I believe. Thank you, Grigori. The first one is to believe in our ministry. Now, when we say to believe, for an example, it is taken from the Gospel of the Last Judgment. Christ says on that Sunday, which is the Apocryphal, the Mid-Fair Sunday, and he says these words: for I was hungry and you gave me food, I was thirsty and you gave me drink, I was a stranger and you took me in, I was naked and you clothed me, I was sick and you visited me, I was in prison and you came to me. And that summarizes that for those people who are ministering to the needs of today's people in the world as we live it today, they must believe that what they do, and Christ explains this in this gospel, they don't do it to just another person, but to Christ himself. Because this is what, at the end, this is what we see. Since you did it to one of these, the least of my brethren, you did it to me, he says. And in fact, this is what decides our eternal salvation, the last judgment. Those people who did those little things, they don't seem to be very significant. How much is it done to give a plate of food and a drink and to give a cloth to somebody? We have so many clothes, we don't know what to do with them. We throw them out sometimes, for the Red Cross to take them, and so on. And how much does it really cost to visit somebody, and so on. And yet, these little things, we must believe in that in God's name, we do this to our fellow human beings. So, to sort of run through that, the second thing that is necessary, that's the first one, to believe in the ministry. The prayer, and his grace mentioned for very, very correctly, the prayer and our ministry, how important prayer is. Because at any moment, to be able to refer to the big boss above, to refer to him our problems. And of course, in our line of work, we don't always meet nice people and well-mannered people. There is many times that you feel like, I don't want to see you anymore, go somewhere else. And yet, you have to be there and take it all and be patient and even at that moment to think that God or Christ is looking at you and he wants to see how you are going to behave, how you're going to treat this particular person who is a challenging person to you, and you're looking at your clock and you have a full room and you want to get rid of it, and you can't. You have to be able to stay and try and see how best to keep him, to give him something positive, because the Christian virtue, there it will show more than anywhere else. It's very easy to be virtuous with people that they understand us, they are very nice with us, that's very easy. But to be able to keep that and be virtuous with these people, and this can only be achieved through prayer. We will not be able to do it by ourselves if we don't have that strength coming from above. Christ said it, that for without me you could do nothing. He said it very briefly. Without me you could do nothing. St. John Chrysostom says prayer is the root and the mother of thousands of good things. Myris agathistole, thousands of good things. The mother and the root. And of course we see in Matthew as well, whatever things you ask in prayer, believing, you will receive. Now, how much we believe that and how much we ask of that? That's a question for everyone. And the third thing in our ministry, apart from believing in what we do, apart from prayer, the prayer which is important, the third thing is the spirit of sacrifice in our work. The spirit, I think you all know here as nurses, social workers, doctors, of course, the priests, how important it is that, of course, Christianity is based on sacrifice. The cross of Christ is, and not only that, but from the moment he was born, Christ's sacrifice begins from the moment he was born. Him being God, to be born as a human being. It's the beginning of this sacrifice, till of course the pinnacle of that up on the cross. He says himself to anyone, if anyone desires to come after me, let him deny himself and take up his cross and follow me. Simply. We will hear this gospel coming up because the 14th of September, as you know, the cross, the world elevation of the cross. Yes. So we will hear this gospel. And then in Luke's gospel, Christ is the same, but the quote is more revealing. Let him deny himself and take up his cross daily, on a daily basis. Not just vaguely and generally in your life, but on a day-to-day. And this, as I said before, there are couples here, husband and wives, we have children, they try us every day. How our presence can bring peace into the household. How can we be peaceful with one another? We were talking before with His Grace about similar things, and this is what really we want to say. How important it is, that feeling of sacrifice across all levels. Of course, these three specific characteristics I wanted to mention. And then there's the final one, which is very important, and I want to finish with that. And it has to do not with miracles, but with something which is, to me, quite revealing, that Christ says in more than one gospel. In fact, in today's gospel, we saw it, we heard it. Remember, if we're going to church, that the miracle of feeding the multitudes with 5 loaves and 2 fish. And there is something there that Christ says he saw the crowd, and he had compassion. He had compassion on them. Now this is recurring. In Mark, in the Gospel of St. Mark, we read, and Jesus, when he came out, saw a great multitude, and was moved with compassion for them, because they were like sheep not having a shepherd. And the same quote in Matthew, but when he saw the multitudes, he was moved with compassion for them, because they were weary and scattered like sheep having no shepherd. The Greek word in the Gospel is esplachnisti. O Kyrios esplachnisti. Moved with compassion doesn't say go anywhere near what esplachnisti means. Splachnizome means, the Greek word splachnizome is to put somebody inside my innards, in my guts, to have him so close to me that he is like my innermost self that I can feel. That's how Christ feels about this crowd, that it appeared as a flock of sheep with no shepherd. Now this word esplachnisti is, we find 4 times in the Gospel of St. Matthew, 4 times in the Gospel of St. Mark, and 3 times in the Gospel of St. Luke. And all the times is referring to Christ and the people. This is what Christ did for the people. That we feel so sensitive. We are moved by the plight of people. You might say, hold on, are we today's world anything like the people at the time of Christ? The same? I think your grace, respected fathers here and brothers and sisters, you will agree that in today's world we are indeed all scattered. The Greek word again for scatter and weary is eklimeni. The Greek word eklimeni again means something completely different from scatter and weary. It means those that have been skinned off. The people, the crowd, the people with no leaders, no spiritual leaders, are like the people that have been cut, torn, and skinned, without the direction, the spiritual direction, that can only come from God Himself. And this is why, and now I make a jump here, our Orthodox Church is not just called a church, but in the words of Father John Psarommatis, is a therapeuterion, meaning a healing place. Our Orthodox Church is a healing place. Why? Because we come here for everyone. We get into the church in order to be healed. This is why we always say, Lord, have mercy. People might think, why Lord mercy? They want mercy. And yet we insist, Lord, have mercy. Lord, have mercy. And we ask for God to be merciful to us. Why? Because when we take His mercy, we can become merciful to our fellow human brothers and sisters. And when we are within our church, this is when our spiritual senses are being ekleptimonde. They become more subtle. They become sensitized into understanding other people's problems. This is why we have to live within the church in order to become the people that we have that mercy that comes from God, in order to become the true healers of today's needy people that we meet in all aspects of our lives. This is what needs to happen. We are healed in the Orthodox Church, and by living the life of the church in a state of continuing repentance, associated with that prayer, as we said before, we plead for God's mercy, and it is not our knowledge of our orthodoxy, it is not how much we know about our Orthodox faith, it is how much we live in the Orthodox faith that eventually make us those people who, with our presence, can heal others. And to the degree that each one of us lives that faith, to that degree he becomes more or less, or more rather than less, an effective healer. I'm sure that if there's questions later, we will have an opportunity to talk more about this point. Thank you for that brief talk. I'm sorry if I bored you.